Enneagram. Figure out your personality and improve your relationships. Written by Amy Gileson. Narrated by Bonnie Rogers. Chapter 1. The Definition and Reach. The Enneagram is a personality typing system based around 9 distinct personality types. The principle being that everyone falls under one of these 9 categories. Some say that it is an age-old system, with its origins traceable to Sufism. Others suggest that it is much more recent. However, it is a fascinating system with more intricacy than meets the eye at first glance. Our personality develops in childhood. It is our coping strategy which we develop to deal with our own personal environment. There are 9 unique patterns acknowledged in the Enneagram, but it also predicts how each of the 9 personalities will change under stress and, in addition, when we're feeling completely safe and secure. So, why would we want to categorize anyone as a certain personality type? Well, in spite of the fact that we can go to the moon, most of us have huge trouble comprehending one another. A key to being able to understand other individuals is to first develop an appropriate comprehension of ourselves, and one way of doing that is to have a look at ourselves by means of the Enneagram. It isn't a simple thing to put your own character under the microscopic lens. You have to be prepared to hear and find features of yourself that you may not always want to know. You might not like some of the important things you find. There is no point in discovering something about yourself if you are not prepared to deal with the findings, and changing your conduct takes some time, work, and a good deal of commitment. A couple of things to bear in mind when using the Enneagram. First of all, we really need to identify that all personality types are basically positive, and that any negative conduct you might end up being conscious of can be corrected. Secondly, you should be really mindful about typing another person, or to put it simply, putting somebody into a certain Enneagram category. Understanding where someone is in the 9 points can definitely cause an enhanced understanding and better communication. However, the disadvantage is that it can also lead to stereotyping people, and that may lead you to associate specific negative responses with certain people. For example, we run the risk of deciding that because someone is a type 7, this means that they're uncommitted and always will be. Or if someone is a type 9, they will be lazy. By stereotyping people and trying to forecast their responses, we're imposing our own discriminative ideas, and that's just not an advantage. As we will see, each one of the 9 kinds of personality has positive and negative characteristics. That makes perfect sense, since no human being is flawless, but it isn't healthy to concentrate on the negative aspects of anyone's character. Accepting others for who they are and not what we want them to be leads to enhanced communication and more satisfying human relationships. What does the term Enneagram actually mean? Broken down, the words Ennea and gram mean 9 and model, respectively. So, what are the 9 character types? The real names will depend on whichever Enneagram teacher you follow, but the underlying categories are broadly the same. The perfectionist and reformer, the giver and helper, the performer and achiever, the individualist, the observer and investigator, the trooper or loyalist, the dreamer and enthusiast, the confronter, the boss, and the challenger, and the peacemaker and mediator. By understanding your own type, you can become a lot more understanding of other people's reactions. Inspiring yourself to achieve things in life will end up being simpler if you comprehend the drivers of your own behavior. Followers of the Enneagram really believe that everybody has one main underlying inspirational driver that, to a very large extent, determines our thoughts, emotions, and actions. This underlying driver or enthusiasm creates a person's paradigm or view of life. The enthusiasm is given a negative name, but it does not mean that the personality type is negative. It means that the character is primarily addicted to that specific behavior. But this is the raw material. With work, self-examination, and understanding, all character types are very capable of turning this negative into a positive. For instance, Type 2, the giver, believes that everyone needs help. The underlying inspiration is pride. The Type 2 character takes pride in believing that it can help everybody, hence developing an inflated sense of self-worth. However, by analyzing and understanding this motivation in life, it can transform this pride into humbleness and use its natural gift for helping people in a better way. The underlying driver for Type 9 is sloth, as in being really lazy about life. Making choices takes energy since they must weigh up both sides of the argument, so it is easier just to ignore troubles and wait on them to go away, or for someone else to fix them. Nines value consistency above everything else. If an understanding of this driver is not developed, they will spend their lives trying to keep away from dispute or sidestepping arguments. However, nines, like all of the other character types, can be a fantastic asset to the world. Once they comprehend that their fundamental underlying inspiration is sloth, they can enhance by setting little goals and structuring processes to guarantee that they achieve them. Their natural dream to stay away from dispute permits them to develop psychological detachment, which is very beneficial in unpredictable circumstances. It is very essential to realize that everyone has only one type. You cannot belong to two camps. Some people, specifically those that have just begun studying the Enneagram, think that they're a mixture of the different character types. They identify characteristics which appear to support this idea. Our personal attributes are not the same as our underlying inspiration. We can have comparable attributes and responses to others, and yet be absolutely different character types. It could be challenging to categorize yourself as a particular type. We all have an image of who we are instead of knowledge of who we are. It may be beneficial to ask a very close friend, whom you trust 100%, to give you some feedback on your personality. Be careful, though. Not all relationships can survive this kind of honesty. And remember that every personality type has positive and negative aspects connected with it. Don't get hung up about the negatives. Rather, pour all your energy into developing the positive elements of your character. Chapter 2. The Actual Origin of the Enneagram. The Enneagram is one of the many personality profiling systems in the world today. Having said that, its beginnings remain relatively unclear. There are groups of people who believe that the Enneagram first originated in the 10th or 11th century amongst the Sufi, which is a mystical sect of Islam. There are also others who really believe that the Enneagram existed much earlier, back in 2500 BC in Babylon, the Middle East of today. Regardless of when the Enneagram was created, it still remains a really precise tool to profile people today, simply since human nature has not really changed all these years. The Enneagram is also one of the few dynamic profiling systems around. Instead of boxing people up, it describes how a person will behave when feeling good or under stress, and shows the way an individual should grow so as to achieve his or her potential in life. In overall, there are 9 standard character types, and these characters are defined using numbers rather than words. The reason for using numbers is to keep things neutral. Words tend to create meaning in our minds, and we may unwittingly become prejudiced to certain types because of cultural or social influence. Hence, the 9 types are represented by numbers varying from 1 to 9, and the numbers bear similar weights, which means that having a larger character number doesn't translate to being better or worse. You will encounter other Enneagram teachings that use different words to specify the types. Do remember that the descriptions are truly for illustration and are meant to help you comprehend the type better. Different sources will use different words to specify each type, so you need not get puzzled over that. Each character type has got 9 levels of health, beginning with the healthiest at level 1 to the unhealthiest at level 9. So if you compute all possible combos using the wings and lines, together with levels of health, you are looking at potentially 486 variations of character types. With so many possible combinations, how do you properly profile someone? Unlike many other character profiling that needs the application of surveys or questionnaires, you can actually profile somebody with the Enneagram just through observation. Obviously, the length of time for your observation will definitely impact the accuracy of your profiling. Although we will efficiently be of only one basic type, every one of us will react according to different situations and environments that we are in. For that reason, it is no surprise that we will display attributes of all 9 character types throughout our lives. So, the best time to observe somebody is at the time of their downtime, or most natural state. You can still use a survey to profile somebody or to validate your observations. Though with time and practice, you will understand that you can make do without a questionnaire. That would give you a huge boost in improving your social communication abilities and will definitely add greater value to you as an efficient communicator. Chapter 3. How you can discover your type. Enneagram. Are you sure of your type? Are you mistyped? One of the huge factors to consider in the study of the contemporary Enneagram is mistyping. You probably know somebody who typed themselves based on a book or site, and you may not agree with what they chose. Plus, as hard as that is to hear, a lot of us type ourselves based upon who we hope or think we are, instead of who we actually are. This chapter is supposed to help you affirm your type, or help you find your type for the very first time, while keeping away from the typical pitfalls that come with self-typing. Without further ado, here are the things to consider when finding or affirming your type. 1. Make certain you have a basic understanding of every type before you delve into typing yourself. Just like you need to know the premise of how your vehicle works before deciding if it is the brakes or the radiator, you have to have an understanding of the 9 types before you can know with certainty your own type. I would suggest looking at www.enneagrambook.com to get a feel for every type. While you are searching, make certain to remember any types that you feel are really you or really not you. 2. Take the totally free Enneagram test. There are a few tests out there that will attempt to find your type by an online test. Even though these are far from infallible, they definitely are a part of the process. I won't suggest one in particular, but you can Google Enneagram test to find one that suits your needs. 3. Answer the questions on the test truthfully. Ensure you don't answer the way you like to think of yourself or want yourself to be. It's so easy to do this, but the value in the Enneagram is only readily available to you if you get your right type, so make sure to be sincere. 4. Remember that all types are equal. Lots of times, people hear that they are a 4 and really wonder if it is less than a 1 or half of an 8. The numbers are just symbols. All of the types are different, equal, intriguing, stunning, and have something to offer. Love your type. 5. Make sure you find your wing. Every Enneagram type has a wing. Wings can make a substantial distinction in your type. Though not everybody settles on the credibility of the wing, I have found it to be true more of the time than false, so I still suggest it. An example would be the following. A type 3 could have a wing of a 2 or a 4. It would be written like this, 3W2 or 3W4. A type 6 could have a 5 wing or a 7 wing. See the pattern? In order to find your wing, I would look at enneagrambook.com under your type number and find the wings section and see which one seems to fit you more. The wings are normally a lot easier to understand than your type. 6. Remember that you may not see your type so plainly in yourself. It is really hard to see ourselves with objectivity. You might not see the parts of you that make up your Enneagram type immediately. That is why it is essential to do step number 7. 7. Make sure you find a study hall, student, or specialist of the Enneagram to verify your findings and help you take the next step. Find a local Enneagram group that you can call or go to a conference. It is very easy for somebody to hang out with you for a couple of hours and after having several discussions, let you know if you have found the right number. Somebody's type is a lot about their energy, and somebody who has been practicing and studying the Enneagram for a while has developed their aim. Moreover, a great many instructors think the oral custom of the Enneagram is actually the only way the lineage can be passed. So if you happen to be truly interested, having a group of friends and a group to learn with and from is really the most effective tool you can have. Chapter 4. The Types from the Enneagram. You can get a lot from knowing your type and others around you than just, say, discovering which color your character is. With the Enneagram, you can really acquire an insight into yourself and learn what truly encourages you at the core. Uncover your enthusiasm. The reformer, the helper, the achiever, the individualist, the observer, the loyalist, the enthusiast, the challenger, and the peacemaker. Welcome to a fresh outlook on character, simple yet deep-reaching system on human personality types. The Enneagram can help you find what truly drives you and each other person you know in life, and how to take advantage of that knowledge. Think about this for a minute. Does work just feel like a bit more than abuse, and you're going through your days like a zombie? Wake up, go to work, get home late and worn out, perhaps grumpy, flop down on bed, rinse and repeat. Well, maybe the answer is easy. If your job doesn't satisfy your inner motivation, it's never going to feel very gratifying for you. You're just going through the movements. Or if work is remarkable and you'd like to understand people better, like your crush or that quiet girl who won't leave the corner, and even that bothersome guy who won't stop bragging, the Enneagram can be an incredible help in looking at things from their viewpoints. You can learn how to get along with particular types of people, your compatibility with them, and even what they think about you. Learn what makes them and yourself happy. And I promise you, it'll be just as fun as finding what color your character is, if not more. Below is a short sneak peek on all 9 personality types. Type 1. The reformer or the perfectionist. Reformers live by high standards, as they always strive to do every little thing properly and to make every little thing right. They are the most reputable people you'd ever meet, fair and sincere, firmly holding up concepts and ethics. Ever practical and realistic, they pursue perfection, but they are far from an idle dreamer. In life, perfectionists want to avoid anger and errors. Type 2. The helper. Everybody likes to be accepted, valued, and needed. Helpers make this an essence of life. They try to achieve that by projecting a positive, warm presence and looking to care for the needs of people around them. As a consequence, people primarily love having them around. Helpers want to stay away from a clingy impression. Type 3. The achiever. The achiever's drive is to succeed and to be efficient, and every little thing they do focuses on these goals. Ever self-assured, they're everything they appear to be and have the tendency to be a good example that motivates others. Achievers hate failure and try their best to stay away from it. Type 4. The individualist. The individualists are on the extreme border between real life and dream life. They almost seem to fade in and out between the two, always comparing what they actually have and what they wish to have, but mostly can't. Mavericks are driven to find the true meaning of life, to find themselves, to seek the important things they want in life, and not to be just another face. They want to be unique, since indeed these people are unique, and you better know that. Type 5, the observer. Observers like pursuing their various interests and thoughts alone. They are inspired by the deep need to know and understand everything, and to be self-dependent. Observers wish for themselves and only for themselves, not others, to control them, making them the supreme independent people. They seek to keep away from appearing stupid or unaware. Type 6, the loyalist. Patriots seek the complacency first and foremost. Followers come in many tastes, from the withdrawn and stiff to the bold and confronting. There are two kinds of the sixes, phobias and contraphobias. The previous appears fearful and seeks approval. The latter battles their fear, appearing brave and blunt. Both are centered around dealing with fear. Type 7, the enthusiast. If you know no bounds of age, always springy, always active, and always busy, you are most likely a 7, an enthusiast. Fans are inspired by the need to be happy and to have fun, to be a contribution to the world, and to eliminate real pain and suffering. Type 8, the challenger. The first word that enters your mind to specify the people of this type would need to be strong, because oppositions desire to be and are strong and self-dependent. They want to stay away from being viewed as weak, and the people who somehow think they are would very soon get what's coming to them anyways. Type 9, the peacemaker. The peacemakers are simply made to be adaptable and neutral, since they have a deep need to keep the peace and merge with others, as well as to stay away from dispute. Since they're so versatile, they're considerably affected by the other 8 types around them. Consequently, there is a large selection of peacemakers, from those with gentle, soft personalities to strong, independent ones. Chapter 5. Why is self-awareness important? Self-awareness is the capability to see yourself obviously and objectively through reflection and self-questioning. While it might not be possible to get overall neutrality about oneself, that's an argument that continues to rage throughout the history of philosophy, there are definitely degrees of self-awareness. It exists on a spectrum. Although everybody has a fundamental idea of what self-awareness is, we do not know exactly where it comes from, what its precursors are, or why some of us appear to have more or less than others. This is where the self-awareness theory comes in, offering some potential answers to questions like these. What is self-awareness theory? Self-awareness theory is based on the idea that you aren't your thoughts, but the entity observing your thoughts. You are the thinker, separate and apart from your thoughts. We can go about our day without giving our inner self any additional thought, simply thinking and feeling and serving as we will. However, we also can focus our attention on that inner self, a capability that Duval and Wicklund described as self-evaluation. When we participate in self-evaluation, we can give some thought to whether we are thinking and feeling and serving as we should, or following our requirements and values. This is described as comparing against our standards of correctness. We do this each day, using these standards as a way to judge the rightness of our thoughts and habits. Using these requirements is a major part of practicing self-control, as we assess and figure out whether we're making the right choices to accomplish our objectives. Research on the topic. This concept has been around for several decades, giving researchers a lot of time to test its soundness. The depth of knowledge on self-awareness, its correlations, and its benefits can offer us with a healthy structure for boosting self-awareness in ourselves and others. According to the notion that is out there are 2 main results of comparing ourselves against our requirements of correctness. We pass or find alignment between ourselves and our standards. We fail or find a discrepancy between ourselves and our standards. When we find an inconsistency between the two, we find ourselves with two choices: to work toward minimizing the disparity or keep from it completely actively. Self-awareness theory and subsequent research on it suggests that there are a number of different aspects that impact how we choose to react. Generally, it boils down to how we think it will turn out. If we believe there's little chance of actually changing this inconsistency, we tend to avoid it. If we happen to believe that it is likely that we can improve our positioning with our standards of accuracy, we take action. Our actions will also depend on how much time and effort our company believes that the adjustment will take. The slower development will be, the not as likely we are to take on the realignment efforts, particularly if the perceived discrepancy between ourselves and our standards is big. Basically, this implies that when faced with a considerable disparity that will take a lot of constant and focused work, we usually simply do not bother and stay with keeping away from self-evaluation on this specific disparity. Moreover, our level of self-awareness communicates with the likelihood of success in straightening ourselves and our standards to identify how we think of the result. When we're self-aware and actually believe there's a high chance of success, we're usually fast to associate that success or failure to our efforts. On the other hand, when we are self-aware but really believe there's a low chance of success, we tend to believe that the result is more affected by external factors than our efforts. Naturally, at times, our success and adjustment with our standards is driven in part by external factors. But we always have an important role to play in our successes and failures. Interestingly, we also have some power over our standards, such that we could alter our requirements if we find that we don't measure up to them. This is more likely to happen if we're focused more on the standards than on ourselves. If we struggle when we are concentrated on the requirements more than our efficiency, we are more likely to blame the standards and modify them to fit our efficiency. Although it could seem like only shifting the blame to standards and, therefore, letting yourself off the hook for a very real discrepancy, there are many circumstances in which the requirements are extremely strict. Therapists' workplaces are filled with people who hold themselves to impossibly high standards, effectively giving themselves no chance of success when comparing themselves to their internal standards. It's clear from the research on self-awareness that it is a crucial element at play in how we think, how we feel, and how we act, and how we respond to our thoughts, feelings, and actions. 4 proven advantages of self-awareness. Now, let's shift our attention to research on the results of being self-aware. As you may imagine, there are many benefits to practicing self-awareness. It can make us more proactive, increase our approval, and motivate positive self-development. Self-awareness enables us to see things from the perspective of others, practice self-discipline, work creatively and productively, and experience pride in ourselves and our work and general self-confidence. It leads to better decision-making. It can make us better at our jobs, better communicators in the workplace, and boost our confidence and occupational wellness. The advantages listed are reason enough to work on enhancing self-awareness, but this list is by no means exhaustive. Self-awareness has the potential to improve practically each experience you have, as it is a tool and a practice that can be used anywhere, anytime, to ground yourself in the moment, realistically evaluate yourself and the situation, and help you to make good decisions. 3 examples of self-awareness abilities. So we know that self-awareness is good, but what does it appear like? How does one practice self-awareness? Below are 3 examples of somebody practicing self-awareness abilities. Bob at work. Bob fights with creating a quarterly report at work, and he regularly produces subpar results. He notices the inconsistency between his requirements and performance and engages in self-evaluation to identify where it originates from and how to enhance. He asks himself what makes the task so hard for him, and he recognizes that he never ever appears to have difficulty doing the work that enters into the report, but he fights with writing it up cohesively and obviously. Bob decides to fix the inconsistency by taking a course to improve his writing ability, having an associate review his report before submitting it, and creating a multiple-use template for future reports, so he is pretty certain to include all pertinent information. Monique in the house. Monique is having relationship problems with her boyfriend Louis. She thinks Louis takes her for granted, and he doesn't tell her he enjoys her or shares affection enough. They fight about this frequently. Suddenly, she understands that she may be contributing to the issue. She looks inward and sees that she does not show Louis gratitude very often, and that she overlooks the good things he does around the house for her and the little physical touches that show his affection. Monique considers her thought processes when Louis really misses an opportunity to make her feel loved, and notes that she presumes he intentionally avoids doing things that she likes. She hangs around thinking and talking with Louis about how they want to show and get love, and they start to work on enhancing their relationship. Bridget on her own. Bridget deals with low self-esteem, which causes depressive symptoms. She doesn't feel sufficient, and she does not accept opportunities that come her way just because of it. She starts dealing with a therapist to help her build self-awareness. The next time a chance comes her way, she thinks she does not want to do it, and at first decides to turn it down. But with the help of some self-awareness strategies, Bridget recognizes that she is only telling herself she doesn't want to do it because of her fear that she will not be good enough. Bridget reminds herself that she is enough and redirects her thoughts to, "What if I prosper?" rather than, "What if I struggle?" She accepts the opportunity and continues to use self-awareness and self-love to improve her chances of success. These 3 stories exemplify what self-awareness can seem like and what it can do for you when you tap into it. Without self-awareness, Bob would have kept kipping down bad reports. Monique would have continued in an unfulfilling relationship or broken things off. And Bridget would never ever have taken the opportunity that helped her grow. If you try to find them, you can find these stories all over. 5 ways to increase your self-awareness. Now we have some specific examples of self-awareness in mind. We know what it appears like to embrace self-awareness and grow. However, how do you do it? What did our leading characters do to practice self-awareness? There are tons of ways to build and practice self-awareness, but here are some of the most effective. 1. Practice mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness refers to being present in the moment and focusing on yourself and your environments rather than getting lost in thought or ruminating or daydreaming. Meditation is the practice of focusing your attention on just one thing, like your breath, a mantra, or a feeling, and letting your thoughts wander by instead of hanging on to them. Both practices can help you become more aware of your internal state and your responses to things. They can also help you determine your thoughts and emotions and keep away from getting so caught up in them that you lose your hold on yourself. 2. Practice yoga. Yoga is a physical practice, but it's just as much a mental practice. While your body is stretching and bending, your mind is learning discipline, self-acceptance, and awareness. You become more knowledgeable about your body and all of the emotions that manifest, and you become more familiar with your mind and the thoughts that surface. You can even match yoga with mindfulness or meditation to improve your self-awareness. 3. Make time to show. Showing can be done in several ways, including journaling, and is personalized to the individual reflecting. But the important thing is to go over your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. to see where you met your standards, where you failed them, and where you could improve. You can also reflect on your requirements themselves to see if they are good ones for you to hold yourself to. You can try writing in a journal, talking aloud, or simply sitting silently and thinking. Whatever helps you to assess yourself. 4. Journaling. The advantage of journaling is that it allows you to recognize, clarify, and accept your thoughts and feelings. It helps you find what you want, what you value, and what works for you. It can also help you discover what you do not want, what's not important to you, and what does not work for you. Both are similarly important to learn. Whether you like to write free-flowing entries, bulleted lists, or poems, making a note of your thoughts and emotions helps you to become more conscious and intentional. 5. Ask the people you really love. It's important to feel we know ourselves from the inside, but external feedback helps too. Ask your family and friends about what they think about you. Have them specify you and see what rings true with you and what surprises you. Carefully consider what they say and think of it when you journal or otherwise show. Of course, don't take any one person's word as gospel. You need to speak with a range of people to get an extensive view of yourself. And remember that at the end of the day, it's your self-beliefs and emotions that matter the most to you. Importance in counseling and coaching. Self-awareness is a powerful tool that, when practiced routinely, can do more helpful for coachees and clients than anything else an expert can share with them. To make real, impactful, and lasting change, people need to be able to look inward and end up being familiar with that internal environment. Building self-awareness should be a leading concern for practically all clients, after which the more traditional coaching and therapy work can begin. An example could be this. You can counsel a person on their bad habits and give 1,000 ways to break their habits. Still, if they do not comprehend why they tend towards these bad habits in the first place, it's practically an assurance that they will either never ever break those routines or will quit for a while and just pick up where they left off when things get rough. Self-awareness isn't only essential for the coachee or client. It is also crucial for the coach or therapist. In fact, self-awareness is prioritized as a core requirement in the Council for Accreditation of Counseling and Associated Educational Programs, CACREP, Standards, 2009, for the profession, as both a requirement for counselors and a necessary skill to integrate in clients. It takes a great amount of self-awareness to give proficient counsel and supply actionable advice. Plus, self-awareness will help the caring counselor from getting too involved in their client's problems or seeing the issues through their own skewed lens. To really help somebody, it's important to see things from their perspective, and that requires being self-aware enough to put our thoughts and feelings aside sometimes. Meditation, mindfulness, and self-awareness. The link between meditation, mindfulness, and self-awareness is clear, meaning it's no surprise that practicing the first two will naturally result in more of the third. When we meditate or practice mindfulness, we're focusing on the things that can typically get disregarded in our busy daily lives, the present moment and our own internal experience. Those individuals who learn more about their thought procedures and patterns are more able to adapt and enhance them, both by just understanding their procedures and patterns and by giving themselves a mechanism for practicing and improving. Undoubtedly, a program intended to boost self-awareness, among other things, through yoga and meditation, led to a variety of enhancements, which includes more positive effects, less tension, greater mindfulness, improved durability, and even greater job fulfillment. Self-awareness and emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence can be described as the cluster of capabilities that enable us to recognize and regulate emotions in ourselves and others. According to the most popular theory of emotional intelligence from psychologist and author Daniel Goleman, Self-awareness is not only important for emotional intelligence, it is just one of the 5 parts. These 5 components are self-awareness, self-regulation, social abilities, empathy, and inspiration. Other popular theories of emotional intelligence also include self-awareness as a core element, making it one of the factors that essentially all scientists and experts settle on. Self-awareness is a required building block of emotional intelligence. It is the foundation on which the remainder of the elements are built. One must have self-awareness to self-regulate, and social skills will be weak and of little use if you aren't mindful enough about when and how to use them. If you are aiming to build your emotional intelligence, self-awareness is the first step. Ensure you have developed strong skills in self-awareness before giving the other aspects your all. 4 tips for improving self-awareness in relationships. If you want to be more like post-reflection Monique than pre-reflection Monique, describing examples of self-awareness skills in the action above, or if you're going to help your clients with their relationship concerns, here are some excellent pointers for introducing more self-awareness within the context of a relationship. Practice mindfulness, especially when engaging with your loved ones. Pay close attention to the words they say, their tone, their body language, and their facial expressions. We typically communicate even more information with the latter 3 than we do with our words alone. Give your loved ones your full attention. Having routine conversations about the relationship. It is essential to keep things in perspective and guarantee that absolutely nothing is falling between the cracks. When you have routine conversations about your relationship with your loved ones, it's much harder to stay away from or neglect things that can turn into problems. It also helps you reflect on your part and come prepared to discuss your thoughts, emotions, and habits, along with your loved ones. Spend quality time together and apart. That is especially important for romantic relationships, as we typically find ourselves spending most or even all of our spare time with our spouse or partner. Still, as much as you really love and enjoy hanging around your partner, everybody needs some quality time alone. Make sure you and your partner are getting some real quality me time to think about what you want, what you really need, and what your goals are. This will help you keep yourself from combining too much into your partner and maintaining your independence and stability. After this, since there will be 2 independent, stable, and healthy adults in the relationship, it will be much more satisfying to both partners when they spend quality time together. Share your perspective and consider theirs. It's easy to get too caught up in our perspective on things. Nevertheless, healthy relationships require that we consider other people's needs in addition to our own. To know what our loved ones need and to provide on those needs, we must first identify and understand them. We do this by practicing our self-awareness and sharing that awareness with our loved ones. If you never check in with your loved ones on their views or emotions, it can trigger you to wander apart and inhibit real, gratifying intimacy. Ask your loved ones for their perspective on things and share your perspective with them. Role in the workplace and leadership. As noted earlier, self-awareness enhances our communication, confidence, and job efficiency. It's simple to see how self-awareness can lead to these results in the workplace, as better self-evaluation naturally results in enhancing the alignment between our actions and our requirements, resulting in better efficiency. According to Tasha Eurich at the Harvard Business Review, self-awareness can be divided into 2 classifications or types: internal self-awareness and external self-awareness. Internal self-awareness is all about how well we see ourselves and our strengths, weaknesses, values, and so on, while external self-awareness is understanding how others see us with those exact same elements. Good supervisors and leaders need both to perform well in their roles. Although you might think that more experience as a leader and greater power in somebody's role leads to better self-awareness, that might not be true. Experience can be positive or negative regarding learning and enhancing the self. Even positive experiences can lead one to attribute success to themselves when it might have more to do with the scenarios, leading to incorrect self-confidence. In fact, the HBR notes that only 10 to 15% of those they studied display self-awareness, though the majority of us believe we are self-aware. To enhance self-awareness, Urich advises introspection, but with a concentration on asking oneself the right questions. She notes that asking why may not always work, as tons of our internal procedures stay shrouded in our own subconscious or unconscious minds. Instead, asking what could cause better introspection. For instance, rather than asking, "Why do I flop at this task so often?" you may ask yourself, "What are the scenarios in which I flop at this job, and what can I do to change them?" It's not a foolproof method, but it can help you in improving your self-awareness and increasing your positioning with your requirements on certain activities. Self-awareness in students and children. Self-awareness isn't just for supervisors and employees. It can also significantly benefit students, children, and teenagers. The exact same benefits that make us more productive in the office can make students more productive in the classroom and at home. Better communication with teachers and peers, more self-confidence, and more satisfaction with performance can all result in happier, healthier students. These advantages also really apply to sophisticated students. Increased self-awareness leads to more self-care in health students, and a much better grasp on an individual's strengths and abilities, together with an increase to emotional intelligence in law students. In essence, a little additional self-awareness can be of great benefit to anybody with the will to improve. This piece includes a description on self-awareness, an expedition of the idea of self-awareness, examples, and pointers and tools you can use to improve your self-awareness. We hope you find this information practical in increasing your awareness or the awareness of your clients. This has been Enneagram. Figure out your personality and improve your relationships. Written by Amy Gileson. Narrated by Bonnie Rogers. Copyright year 2020 by Amy Gileson. Production copyright by Amy Gileson.